Greetings and Happy New Year, Toffees. Welcome back to the Blue Frontier. James here, joined by Ryan after Everton finish the year very strongly with a remarkable 2-0 win against Nottingham Forest at the City Ground against Sean Dyche. Our match quote of the day comes from Richard Watts, 01 from X, who said, "Fantastic win, given the players we had available. Superb performances from Garner, Tim, Tark, and Jake, and solid elsewhere. Rode our luck at times, but created decent chances. Shows how vital the first goal is with this Everton team." And yeah, just a really strong way to finish the year. Excited to dissect this one in a bit of an abbreviated match review format, given that we're a couple days late on this one. Before we get into it, just a reminder that if you enjoy the show, leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. We appreciate that. Like, subscribe, leave us a comment on YouTube, and find all of our links in the description of the episode for our socials and our Discord. Into the match, Ryan. Talking points. I think first and foremost, it's really hard to evaluate this match without talking about how depleted this Everton lineup was, to the point where I think I tweeted before the match it would be almost a miracle if we were to even get a point, and nevertheless we got all three.
I kind of liked the lineup. I know it sounds ridiculous other than the right back. I just thought that there was, well, the interesting part about it was I thought there was a way we could set up that would be interesting and deal with Forest rather well. You know, we could get on the ball and control the match a little bit. Now, that was completely inaccurate. I mean, we didn't do any of those things, but the lineup itself was kind of conducive to it. Charlie and Keane are injured? What did that mean? I guess there was a sickness running through the camp, but do we know any more about what this... I mean, Keane's been hurt for a while, but Charlie is a little odd, I thought, and Nathan Patterson into the lineup. That was aggressive.
Yeah, it was really shocking to see just the lack of depth continually exposed. And we know AFCON has sort of brought some of these things to the forefront, but then you lose a couple more guys who have been kind of staples in their absence, and it just gets even thinner. I mean, Merlin Rule starting at the 10, Patterson starting at right back, and then you've got Dibling and McNeil because Jack is he's on the bench, but he's recovering from sickness. And you look at the bench, and it just puts everything on full display. We have this from Aaron Barton. Two of Everton's 9 substitutes had played for Everton in the Premier League before. We're back to the two keepers on the bench days. We've got Grealish and Beto on the bench, and then basically a bunch of kids, and Adam Asnu, who is still a kid but signed for the first team. I mean, truly, Nathan Patterson starting a game for Everton to close out 2025, not on my bingo card, and
no.
Just shocking. And then you look at the Forest lineup, and it's like, I don't know, they're so much worse than the sum of their parts. They have so much talent.
They really do. And they had a lot of depth. Some people have left. They've tried to kind of right-size their team a little bit. I'll say this, though. Joe Thomas sent this out, which I think is useful. The good news about the depth is that Tark, Vitaly Mykolenko, and James Garner avoided bookings. Because that would have been massive, James. Because then going forward, we're just scrambling around to try and figure what on earth are we going to do. Someone said that Njai was taken off at halftime for Senegal with an injury. Bluist on the Discord indicated that he didn't see any injury, so I haven't heard anything else about that, but I would think Senegal's going to go fairly deep into this tournament, so that's probably not a solution anytime soon. We will talk about Harrison Armstrong getting recalled from loan. I think that's an interesting factor going forward. But the match at hand, I just kind of wondered how all these pieces were going to fit together. And I think the one thing that's probably the most important thing here is that they were losing some guys as well from AFCON. But things change a lot if you can get the first goal, as was alluded to in the first quote. And James, to me, if you can get the first goal against the Sean Dyche side, we've seen how somewhat incapable he is of designing an attack or really coming up and dialing up anything other than maybe a high press. And that's why the first goal is critical, because you also don't want to be playing into them either, especially with some of the talent they had on the wings.
100%. And honestly, you mentioned the Dyche ineptitude. We've been subjected to watching our team under Dyche try to break down teams when they go down a goal and just being so ineffective. So it just emphasizes how important that goal from James Garner was, which we'll talk about in more detail momentarily. But yeah, that's just not his game. His game is to keep things kind of cagey, score a goal, take the lead, and then force the opposition to come on to you. And then when you force this Forest team into 50-plus crosses, searching for an answer, and you've got Tarkowski and Jake O'Brien both in the middle of the field able to defend the box, it's just not really a winning recipe. And again, Forest missing Chris Wood, they don't really have that target guy, so it's kind of just hoping for a miracle bounce to go their way, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and I think the third big talking point is the away form under Moyes has been very different. Now, I can't really point to anything, James, that I think is specific about that other than the team's a little bit better. Certainly, David Moyes doesn't feel like he has to sit back and counter and do some of the things that maybe Sean Dyche felt like he had to do. But the away form was good under Moyes too before. So, interesting tweet here from EFC Stato, though.
Yeah, from EFC Stato. Everton Premier League games won away from home in 2025, 9. Premier League games won home and away in 2024, 8. So it just kind of drives home. Much better Everton team, much more enjoyable to watch, much more satisfying results. And, you know, there was a time both home and away form came under question in the last few years. Both were pretty diabolical. And Everton just winning more games. As you say, a better team, more exciting to watch, and a little more, I guess, resilient in different circumstances.
I think that's true. I think the other thing that's worth noting, too, is we talked a lot about the summer and the net spend of, 115 million euros or so, what it was not so big that it's going to be the differentiator and vault us up the table in some capacity. It kind of has, though, and I think one of the reasons why, even though that was slightly above average net spend for the Premier League, it's not a big number for the Premier League, you look at teams like Forest, and we'll get into their lineup real quick. When you look at all these players you mentioned, the sum of the parts just doesn't, it doesn't add up. It doesn't look great. And some of these teams are a little bit dysfunctional, and certainly the match of Sean Dyche with the personnel doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Now, to your point, if Chris Wood was available, maybe things fall into place a little bit more, but I mean, Igor Jesus has some of the targety profile, but I don't know. If you look at some of his numbers, too, of center forwards in the Premier League this season with over 200 minutes, he's 9th in aerial duels and 12th in win rate. So there's some aerial ability. He's not that small a guy, but then you look at the bookends and you think Hutchinson's an interesting player, very left-footed, and Hudson-Odoi is the same thing, interesting player, right-footed, but they're in different sides. They're playing as inside forwards, and that's not how Dyche traditionally plays. I would have thought Morgan Gibbs-White would be the perfect second striker for him, playing off a target guy. I don't know how often he really got close enough to the center forward to do much, but I think the center forward didn't win much. Very interesting how they've opted for Victor over Sells, though. Like, Sells is injured, I get it, but coming back from injury, you move for Victor. They also have some hits to do the African Cup of Nations, too, James.
Yeah, they're missing Willy Bally, who hasn't really featured for them. I mentioned to Ryan just off air, I kind of forgot that he signed for them. But Sangare has been getting some significant minutes under Dyche. He's a big miss. Yates, Aina, Endoy, soft guy. They're all out.
Hit him again, Tark.
McAtee, again, a signing that they made that just doesn't really seem to be featuring. Calamuendo, bizarre transfer.
Makes no sense. I don't. Why did they think that he was going to be able to step in when they already had center forwards? Like, that's an odd one. And it sounds like maybe McAtee and both those guys may be off. I mean, Calamuendo might be back to France. Like, that doesn't sound like they did good business. A couple guys are back, though, that I think are decent players or at least could help them.
Well, we know Bakwa was a guy we talked about a ton in the summer, and honestly, I mean, he came on as a sub in the match, and he looked very dynamic, very agile, very quick, and quite good. Douglas Luiz did feature in the match, had a couple wild shots that he took. So they've made signings, but again, even like the signing of Hutchinson, they paid a lot of money for guys who I wasn't all that convinced by necessarily. But
they're better than this. I mean,
they're much better than this. But then you contrast Forest underperforming and then Moyes getting this type of performance out of a very, very thin team. And you even think back to just a few matches ago, winning at Old Trafford down to 10 men. Like, there's just a resilience and a belief in this Everton team that I think Moyes deserves credit for instilling in the players.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the Everton lineup too, James, I mean, you see when you move Jake O'Brien into a center back position, I mean, it's a big difference in terms of athleticism back there. No offense to Michael Keane. I think the obvious concern was, though, well, first of all, you have someone that's a little more agile, a little more athletic, that can push up higher. Now the job of the defensive mids is a little easier, I think. A couple things about this lineup, though, that I really hate. Merlin Roll continuing to play in the 10 doesn't make any sense at all to me. I understand that there are people missing, and you got to plug people in. I get it. I thought it was very interesting what Moyes did later with moving Merlin to right back. But throwing Nathan Patterson in there, again, I know we're limited, so I don't think you can be overly critical at Moyes about this. Maybe he was hoping that we would get something out of that. With Mikolenko being a fairly defensive left back, in theory, if this game played out a little bit different game shape-wise, maybe you do push up a little higher and team him up with Dibling, and that makes sense. It really didn't play out that way anyway, and basically all that happened was Nathan Patterson just getting rinsed repeatedly.
Yeah, it's tough for Patterson. I mean, hasn't featured, dealt with injuries, but frankly, I don't think he was good enough before his long spell on the sidelines, and he did okay enough, but it's just clearly still not the answer. Still desperately need a right back. I just don't really know what Moyes, like. You could move Roll. Do you bench Tim? Do you put Dibling at the 10? Like, you look at the bench, there's just not really many options. It's kind of square pegs, round holes type of situation, and he had to cobble together a lineup somehow. Was able to do it, and ultimately got the results. So I think that's the most important thing. And if we talk about the performance, I think you really just have to center it kind of around the two goals, which were two very well-worked opportunities from Everton, despite, I think, when you look at the match as a whole, I think a 2-0 win often leads to people saying, everyone was amazing and we dominated them. Forest did have their chances, but Everton ultimately were clinical in the moments that they needed to be.
And got the first goal. I mean, that's the big difference here, too. The whole game state changes with a Sean Dyche team. We've seen how limited he is in terms of attacking design. And so the second that first goal goes in, I want to walk through this goal, too, because I think it's fantastic. Because early you saw them attacking wide a bit. And I'd say this kind of came against the run of play. But what's really fascinating about this play is that two different guys that can run with the ball, that are athletic and can dribble, made all the difference in the world seeing Forrest back off guys. So, like, if you really look at kind of the play, Nico Williams, who I thought was actually their most dangerous player in many ways, his service at least was decent. He tries to force the ball into the half space that Jimmy Garner cuts off. I mean, Jimmy Garner played a great match. He makes this really tight left-footed pass right along the sidelines. Dwight does this really nice job kind of screening the defender, putting him on his back, and letting the ball go through to Barry. And the second Barry gets it, Milinkovic backs off him. He's afraid to go after him. I think he probably should have whacked him, but he didn't. Barry's a good athlete, and he runs with the ball and handles the ball. His ball control is exceptional for someone his size. We haven't seen it much, but we saw it here. So he backs off. Barry takes it to the middle, gives everyone time to move up, right? Eventually he finds the ball to Tyler Dibling, and they back off Tyler. Like, Tyler creates time and space for players to get up because he's a dribbling threat. I mean, he's not maybe Enshai quite, but he's dangerous. He has tight control. He's a big body, too. Like, he's a big kid. And sure enough, he creates just enough time for guys to get forward. I mean, think about it. Jimmy Garner is the one who made the pass from the back and picked the ball off and eventually scores, right? So he finds Tim. Tim dances around with it a little bit and finds Dwight. And Forrest is so out of shape at this point. They're all over. Murillo, who I think is a maniac in general, they leave this massive gap that Dwight plays Jimmy through. And, I mean, this is a fantastic finish, right, James?
Yeah, and we know James Garner can hit a ball, but
strikes the ball so well.
An awkward angle, the ball coming in, for him to be able to just one-touch it, to place it in the bottom corner so cleanly, is really impressive. And Dwight's involvement in the play, look, Dwight, I don't think he had the best game, and we've been very critical of him on the pod, but it's a very good pass into space to find Garner, and it's just Jimmy at that point. Phenomenal finish, and I thought that would have been a good day in and of itself for him, but it was just really the start of what would be a monster performance. But as you say, it's a really good play from Everton, breaking things down. Forest lacking a little bit of discipline, lacking a little bit of shape, but Everton taking advantage of it.
Yeah, there's no question, and it just sets the tone for the rest of the match. Now, what I thought was very interesting is that I thought Forrest several times got the ball into the final third very well as we went along. I mean, you look at some of these numbers, Nathan Patterson got dribbled past 4 times. So, and look, I mean, Forrest had 16 successful dribbles. So they were getting the ball to their wingers, and guys were beating guys. Tyler Dibling got dribbled past 3 times. Again, he's higher, I get it. Roll twice, Tim Iroegbunam twice. So they were making some progress and some headway, but it just felt like, I mean, some of it's them just missing stuff, but it just felt kind of pointless for them. And we get to halftime. They looked dangerous. I think we're all thrilled to get to halftime, maybe reset. And I felt like we didn't start off the second half either very well. They looked very dangerous. They missed a bunch of chances. I thought the Jack sub helped, but sure enough, we hang on late enough, push them up a little bit out of their comfort zone, and we hit them again to make it 2-0.
Yeah, this is, again, just a really, really good play against where, look, we're up 1-0. We're going to sit back a little bit. We're going to let Forest kind of do their thing, try to break us down. But then in those moments when you need to strike back, we do it really well. Douglas Luiz turns the ball over. Jimmy picks off the ball very well. Dwight gets it, finds Barry. Barry here with the pass. It's actually, he maybe should have led him a little bit more into his path. It's kind of to his feet, so he has to slow up a little bit. And so Milenkovic kind of comes out Murillo comes out to close down, and Garner with this little turn that just leaves Murillo in the dust. Zinchenko, I think this is one of his first appearances for Forest, definitely his first start. Barry finding James Garner and continuing the run, and then Garner finding him one-on-one with the keeper with a defender on his back. Thierno Barry gets his second goal against Forest inside of a month. And it's a good finish. I mean, it's a great run. I think the run is almost better than the finish itself. And Everton, with 10 minutes left, up 2-0, secure the win. It's a fantastic moment. Very happy to see Barry get another goal. I know he said in a social media post he loves playing against Forest, and clearly he does. And that was really that. I mean, you see out the match, and you escape with 3 points. Great way to end the year. But as I mentioned a moment ago, I think when you look at the chances Forest created, it might have been a little more fortunate for Everton than some would have you believe based on the final result, at least.
Yeah, and it's just coming up in big moments. I mean, you could argue, Tark missed that header from the corner in the 73rd he was just so mad at himself, and he didn't miss it by much. That was a massive chance. And we had 3 really big chances and did well on both of them, didn't score on all of them. These numbers also are a little bit biased by the fact that, like, Morgan Gibbs-White had a big header, soon after the goal, that Pick made a great play on, the one where he kind of ran out right and saved it and whatnot. And there were a couple other big chances, but, Forrest had an XG of 1.55. That's a pretty big number not to give up anything. But again, the post shot XG was only 0.94, so they weren't finishing well, for sure. Yeah, but I think really what it came down to, James, is that, once they were forced into Dycheball, where they were allowed to enter into the final third and just ping crosses in, then what? In particular, I think the center back play against Igor Jesus, he just gave them nothing. Nothing at all. 0 for 12 in duels, 0 for 8 in aerial duels. And we'll get to the Everton center back numbers here in a second. The amazing thing was, like, you just look at it, and Forrest had 9 successful crosses, just an absurd amount of attempts too, and really, they had 42 touches in our box. We had only 18 in theirs, but fundamentally, when you're winning 66% of your aerials, Everton won 25 aerials. Forrest only won 3 with all those crosses. That's a game, right?
Yeah, and I think the numbers, especially some of the XG numbers, it is just dictated by game state. Like, Moyes very content to let Forrest fire in all these crosses with the center back pairing.
Maybe a little too much.
Yeah, it could have got a little bit dicey, but
look at the lineup.
Right, it ends up paying off. And I think there were some good performances from Forrest, but guys just did not execute all that well. I know Elliot Anderson has been getting a lot of plaudits this season, a lot of credit, and he, in this type of situation, receiving the ball a little bit deeper, driving it forward. He did extremely well, but didn't get a lot of help from his teammates, and ultimately no end product for them.
And I think that's the story of the match, right? I mean, some of these numbers around Anderson are insane. They just kept playing it through Anderson. Anderson would play it forward. I mean, it's nice to have a midfielder that can just advance it by himself the whole time. Some of this was us conceding space to them, but if you don't do anything with it in the final third, it really doesn't matter. But yeah, Anderson made Opta Joe 30 line-breaking passes against Everton, the most by a midfielder in a Premier League match across the last 2 seasons. So I will say this, the top of our defense wasn't that great. Merlin looked a little bit lost at times, and so they could cut past us. I still don't understand how Dwight has become a more clueless defender. Dibling was working hard, but you could tell, I mean, there's some issues there, and teaming up with Patterson was not going well. I think the difference, when Patterson was yanked and Merlin went back at right back, thought it made us better defensively in many ways. Anderson also set the record for the most forward passes, 59, and most successful final third passes, 50 in a single Premier League game this season. James, those numbers are insane.
Yeah, and look, he's a good player, but you look at James Garner, who you see the end product from him today. Look, they had a lot of the ball, totally fine, comfortable with that. Anderson, good player, but you have to say, all those numbers, regardless of them, I think the Everton midfield duo were more impactful.
I think that the key with James Garner is if you can get him to sneak up there and get that right foot from open play, a couple shots on goal, you see how devastated it can be. Man, we'll get to the January window thought. I don't know if we're going to come up with a 6, but man, it would be so nice to be able to have him kind of sneak up and find the ball and have someone be able to consistently get him the ball. He can cross, he can shoot. I mean, that's where he can be effective. But just looking at the crossing numbers from Forest, I mean, they weren't. I mean, Nico Williams was 5-12, but the rest of these guys, these are some pretty bad numbers, James.
Yeah, Hudson-Odoi and Hutchinson combined 2 for 20. Zinchenko 0 for 6. Bakwa, despite creating space pretty well to get those crosses in, just 1 for 5. So launching things in the box to no avail was the story. And yeah, I was not impressed really with, I know Hudson-Odoi has had a great season last year, but wasn't super impressed with him. Hutchinson was pretty ineffective for the most part. They were just really kind of going up against a brick wall.
Yeah, I mean, the sad part is they were getting by our guys and having open crosses.
Right.
It just, they weren't, I mean, I don't, I mean, Sean Dyche has to be a little frustrated. He certainly had some comments post-match. And while they did dominate the game from a possession standpoint, there were just some big moments for Everton and some good performances, I think, as a result.
Yeah, and first and foremost, got to go with James Garner, I think.
For sure.
Shout out to Sean, who wanted to get him in as in his absence. Mention James Garner. I'll do it on his behalf. We have this comment from Nick Weinstein. Garner has been our player of the season, and he proved it again today. Absolute monster game from him. Form, amazing. He had the goal, the assist, 2 for 2 in dribbles, 7 for 8 in ground duels, and 19 defensive contributions off of the ball. Very good. And yeah, I mean, look, we have been as critical of James Garner as anyone coming into the year. Questions about whether he could really rise to the level we needed him to, but he's been a consistent mention in our good performances throughout the campaign, and this might have been his best performance of the season. I mean, when you look at the end product, the goal and the assist, both of which I think are like deserved. You know, we talk about assists as like a weird stat, but it was a good pass setting up his teammate and a great finish. So he's not always involved in the goals, but huge performance today. Remarkable.
Yeah, he was today. He was all over the place. You got to give him a lot of credit for it too. I mean, just the one thing he does well too is when he engages in duels, he wins them. Like he wins his battles. Look, we can pick apart his game. There's certain things about him that will probably always limit him in terms of his ceiling, but he's an effective Premier League player. He's probably gotten better than maybe some of us ever thought he would. And think about it. You start going back and looking at that window. I mean, I would not have guessed. I mean, Onana, we made a hefty sum off him. I would not have guessed that Garner, out of all those guys, would have ended up kind of increasing his value the most. I believe we paid £9 million for him. I mean, man, that looks like a bargain right now, doesn't it?
Great deal.
But those are the types of deals we need to continue to make. When you
Yes.
can gain guys and make 3 times their market value on them, I mean, that's how you build players, depth, and that's how you build a squad. And this guy's progression is, I mean, what a character. Like, clearly this kid has in order to make himself as good as he has so far. And he's working tirelessly, too. That's the thing, man. God, he just, every match he puts in a shift. It's so admirable. I'll also say this, too. I could have picked either of the center backs, but I went with James Tarkowski in terms, for me, my good performance. 13 clearances, 2 tackles, 1 interception, 3 blocks, 9 for 10 in duels, 6 for 7 in aerials. And Jake wasn't far behind him. Tark had 5 passes in the final third, 2 shots, 1 on target, and 1 near miss. So he was impactful. And I think, as you said before, off air too, you've always maintained that what a difference it makes to pair Tarkowski with someone who's a little bit better an athlete that can be a little more active and let him sit back a little bit.
Yeah, it's just now the couple of games, the few opportunities we've had to see Jake O'Brien at center back, and it's been very much a needs must move by Moyes. It's clearly not what he prefers to do, but every time he does it, he just looks so good. It just makes you really look forward to the time when Jake can actually return to that position in a strengthened team, in a fully fit Everton team. What a problem he's going to be.
Think about JB and Jake in the middle. It's just like Twin Towers, man. It's like just a wall back there of athleticism too. And that's why you start getting ahead of yourself a little bit. We'll talk about it a little bit going into the January window. A team is a collective. And so those guys can play higher. Now the fullbacks have got to play a little bit differently. And, you can see the shapings up of a team that could be really, really good. Credit to David Moyes, too. I mean, he's just such a steady hand. And these guys, there's no panic in these guys, even though they're young, a little bit all over the place. You could just see it. I mean, the leadership starts with the manager. And they seemed to know what they were doing. They were comfortable with the game state, and they saw it out. I thought Tyler Dibling was very good again. Dwight was fine, but to me, Dibling, despite some of the defensive challenges, 3 for 5 in dribbles, 9 recoveries. And we've talked about this so many times on this pod, how important it is to have someone that's a threat to beat you with the ball. And he did a couple things today, too, that were like, whoa. His close control, his size, his ability to hold up the play. It's a little bit similar to Jack on the other side. And it makes all the difference in the world. People have to back off players like that. You can get more players up forward. You can create more. And I don't know. I'm just really impressed with him. I think he's proving to David Moyes that maybe David had a little bit more of a talent than he had before. Hopefully he doesn't, at least going forward, even when Njai comes back, feel reluctant to put Tyler in at any moment. You know what I mean? He's clearly a guy that can impact the match.
100%. And even if he gets pushed to the bench with the return of our first choice wingers, like, he has to be an option off the bench late in games coming on. I mean, he's not necessarily the quickest, but he does have that agility and ability to beat guys off the dribble. And he looks so strong for just 19, like kind of bullying guys and holding them off, driving the ball forward. I think we were all kind of scratching our heads of like, why did we spend so much money on this guy if he's not going to play? And I think now, if this doesn't prove to Moyes that he deserves to be in the picture more, I'm going to have some serious questions about his judgment.
You know, the funny part is we haven't really even seen his left foot that much, and it's very good. He strikes the ball very well. He's going to score some goals for us, I think, but it's just, to me, I mean, you've heard me say it, in the drive for 9th and 15th place that I keep saying that everyone hates me for, to me, the biggest development would be the development of the younger players and seeing them emerge. Now, you can argue whether David Moyes is right to keep him on the bench, and we've heard about his personality. He's a little bit shy, and he's a nice kid. But, I mean, this kid's emergence and development give you some options at the end of the year. So maybe you don't feel compelled if City tries to rake you over the coals to keep Jack. You know, that type of thing, and you can keep Njai maybe. I don't know. Anyway, what do we think about Tim Iroegbunam's performance? I think sometimes, again, I'm very critical of Tim. I think he's got some serious flaws as a player. I think in this one, Burnley, he was quite good. I think in this one, he maybe wasn't as good, but some of the numbers are still standing out.
Yeah, I mean, look, led the team in tackles with 5. but he was dispossessed 3 times, 6 for 15 in duels. I do think the numbers are not as flattering as it looked watching live, because I think he got involved quite a lot. I think even though we harp on his tendency to try to always dribble, he does have that sort of intent with him of trying to move the ball forward, push play forward.
That's what drives you crazy about him, though, right?
A little bit, but I think it was reasonably effective, and I think alongside Garner, if you could just get him to be a little bit more disciplined and less wild, you might have a really impactful player on your hands. And we know he's not going to be like, I think if Ghana comes back, I see people saying, bench Ghana, you keep Iroegbunam in. I don't think that's going to happen. I still think Ghana probably comes right back into the team. But again, when you talk about Tim and the context in which he was brought in, he was not expected to have any kind of impact. And he's filling in for Everton in very dire straits in terms of midfield depth, and he's doing a very good job. So I agree with you, Ryan. Burnley, he had a very good game. This one maybe not quite as good, but consistent performances and showing up when it matters.
That's the thing. You don't want him to over dribble and lose the ball in bad spots, but he's also the one guy that can carry the ball and beat guys. And
right.
So, I mean, you don't want him trying to beat Elliot Anderson, who's kind of a beast back there, but if Douglas Luiz is going to play up too high when they subbed him in, fine, take him on, you know. I will say this, Moyes has done better, I think, finding him an area positionally to be better. He's still a little too high sometimes, but you know, he's keeping it simple, staying in the middle of the pitch for the most part. I just can't stand the angles he takes sometimes, man. He gets dribbled past way too easily. He does make some good recovery runs. He's a very good athlete. It's a steal if you look at the deal. I mean, it's just an absolute steal. I mean, we knew it at the time. We're like, yes, I would take his potential over Dobbins, no question. So, yes, it was a PSR swap, but still, I mean, we've got an asset on our hands now, too, and you can't ignore the physical attributes. I don't know if he'll ever become, you know, what maybe he could be, but I'll say this, man, there aren't that many players that just look flat out athletic in the Premier League, you know? It's like there are a handful of guys that are like that. You cannot teach 6'1", his athleticism, his foot speed. And I think you also see examples where he controls the ball pretty well up forward. He might be the type of guy that, in right situations where you want to put him in as a ball winner, even when, as we increase and grow as a team and maybe get on the ball a little bit more, he's a guy that can do that a little bit. Man, you're just still waiting for him to make some catastrophic mistakes, but the back line's good enough to kind of put up with it. He's important for us. I mean, you know, you need someone in there that can take the ball forward at times. At least he does try and do that with the carry. I look forward to the days where Merlin Roll can play a little bit deeper and do it via the pass and the carry. That's actually what Merlin's very good at. It's also hard for me to look at these center mids and not see a lot of similar profiles. But it is what it is. And, I mean, credit to them. I mean, they stuck it out, you know. I mean, they made it to the point where, call it Sean Dyche or whatever it is, where Forest still continually attacked on the wide areas. I don't know why they didn't attack the middle more often, but they didn't. I don't know if that was to them or just Dycheball, but either way, we'll take it.
Absolutely. We have this this comment from Alex Diplock, kind of summing up a lot of our talking points so far. Forest make me very glad we have stuck by Moyes. That team was much more talented than our side today, but 3 managers are yet to get much from that group. Garner played Anderson under the table. Tim showed he can play a role. Outstanding bit of PSR loophole he is. Just a wonderful result to take us out of 2025. It most certainly is, and couldn't agree more, Alex.
Right, and you look at those decisions that they made. They went and got Douglas Luiz. We didn't. How's that working out for you? They're the ones that wanted Zinchenko at left back, who looks so immobile, by the way. Like, we make fun of Mikalenko for not being fleet of foot. I mean, I know Zinchenko's good on the ball, and they tucked him inside a couple times like you would expect, but I'm sorry. I mean, he was so slow. On the Barry goal, he was 10 yards behind him, and even when he recognized the danger that Milinkovic had stepped up, he couldn't catch him because he's just not athletic enough. And so what do you do with a guy who's making big wages at that age? Both those guys. So to me, I thought those were very good decisions that we didn't make, thankfully. Maybe we tried. I hope we didn't. But cooler heads prevailed. We didn't opt for that type of splash, and I hope we don't in January. Okay. That being said, James, not to be a Debbie Downer here, but I think one thing that is worth noting is that, again, we were the beneficiary of some pretty bad finishing on Forest's end. And when you look at an XG of 1.55 and you're getting a post-shot XG of under 1, and again, one goal, if we'd have given up one goal today, fine. We scored 2, it would have been okay. Pickford made a couple good saves, one very good save, I think. But I can't help but think this is still a little bit of a continuation of the trend that we've seen. I mean, at Arsenal, one penalty XG was 0.92. Post-shot XG was 0. Meaning as they didn't hit the net on that XG number. I mean, that's just luck, man. I mean, I'm sorry. It's not the intimidation of Jordan Pickford in goal. Burnley, same thing. 1.41 non-penalty XG. The post-shot XG off that is 0. So look, guys, this is not going to continue all season. We're not going to have the other teams just flat out missing the net. Forest had several chances today. They should have at least scored one, and they just flat out missed. So while it's a good result, I'm glad we won. This can't really continue. I think it's okay, though, knowing the lineup. So it is what it is. But as Ronald Koeman would say, that's football.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to ride your luck. And I think it's important not to get, as you say, too carried away here. I mean, the Burnley, we were fortunate to get a point at Burnley. We didn't talk about, we didn't do a post-match for that one, but that was pretty diabolical performance from Everton defensively, and Burnley just could not hit the broadside of a barn with any of their opportunities. So the defense maybe still a little bit shaky in terms of conceding chances, riding our luck, but that's okay. We'll take it.
But even Arsenal, I mean, if we get awarded that penalty, which, sure enough, what happened, James?
Yeah, the Premier League key match incidents panel did rule, I think, 3-2 that we should have been awarded that penalty. And again, the Burnley match, definitely
that does a lot for us.
Another arguable penalty. If we could just maybe start getting some reasonably unbiased officiating, correct calls going our way, it does shift things dramatically. Maybe that turns into 3 points at Burnley. Maybe that turns into a 1-1 with Arsenal. So it's fine margins. Things get shaken up all the time. Tough couple of results, but again, a really important bounce back for Everton against Forest to close out the year.
And I think if you look at what that puts us in the table, I don't think anyone would be upset by where we're at right now. We're sitting in 8th. We've got 28 points after 19. Some guys around us, some teams obviously have matches at hand, and eventually they're going to probably put a couple points together. It'll end up dropping us a little bit here. But not bad, especially considering the schedule is a little bit lighter right now. We're missing guys from the Cup of Nations. We have a ton of injuries, and we're still hanging in there, getting results. And to me, I joke about the drive for 9th and 15th, but we're beating that. So to me, that's excellent. I don't think we'll be able to ride the opposition's poor finishing luck for that much longer. However, you've got to create some luck on your own end, and I think we have done that. Especially with some of the bad luck finishing from our strikers so far this year. It's not just bad finishing, folks. It's just how finishing comes and goes. You could expect maybe a little bit more of a regression to the norm and banging a few more goals in. And look, goals change games, and they certainly changed this one. And I think that's really the story of this match too, man. Resilience, getting that first goal, great center back play, and a team that I don't know why you would hire a manager to kind of try and implement something like Dycheball with this team, but they've done it, and it doesn't look like Chris Wood's back anytime soon. So I'm not going to give them thoughts and prayers. They don't need any help from anyone the way they've been outrageous. Certainly they're not going to be anyone's favorite by the owner action as well as some of their free spending. But we do have a couple other candidates, James, for the thoughts and prayers segment.
Yeah, and I think we have to start with thoughts and prayers to Enzo Maresca and Chelsea.
What is going on here, man?
I don't know. It is such a bizarre situation. On December 19th, we have this quote from Maresca when asked if he could guarantee and promise he would be Chelsea manager next season. He said, "Yes, absolutely. I have a contract until June 2029. Makes it to January 1st, breaking this morning that Chelsea have parted ways with him after he just won Premier League Manager of the Month last month in November. Kind of crazy turn of events, but you kind of felt this over the last few days weirdly bubble up. There were talks about him kind of getting tapped up and doing some media appearances that the club hadn't approved, and maybe just ruffling some feathers behind the scenes. But you look at Chelsea, I think with the amount of money they've spent, maybe as a group they'd expect to be performing a little bit better, but it's not like they're having this disastrous season. And I think I can't make head or tails of what they're doing under Bailey. It's just such a weird situation there.
Yeah, I think the other one is, and it was so sad at the end of the match against Forest when you just saw Asnew on the bench, just kind of like he looked so sad. I thought he was going to come in and he didn't. And this brings us to Mark / Southeast Michigan Toffee comment about thoughts and prayers for this man.
Yeah, Mark said, I can't decide if I think Asnew should be a standout performance because he actually got off the bench, even if he never saw the pitch.
He was standing.
Or he was warming up. Or if he belongs in thoughts and prayers. Mark, we're going to decide for you. He belongs in thoughts and prayers. I mean, it's closer to the pitch, closer to coming on than he's been, but Mikolenko had an okay performance. I would have liked to see Asnew given even just a couple of minutes at the end when stoppage time, when we're up 2-0.
Dude,
it wasn't to be.
Such a bummer. I know. A couple other things, too, to the DCL haters. He's still on a tear. Maybe not the most glamorous goals. Can I just say this, too? I'm so tired of hearing they're using him the right way. What center forward doesn't want to be used where they could sit there and score goals? It doesn't make any sense. We were asking him to go out wide and hold on to the ball. Well, I mean, he's good at that. So it's so strange, man. It doesn't matter who scores the goals, man. It doesn't. And it doesn't change the fact that he was missing goals. He just wasn't finishing. Great. I mean, I'm glad he can get tap-ins, But anyway, what I care most about is that they're playing Liverpool today. So I hope he continues his stretch of goal-scoring madness. And also for the Tremidi haters at Rangers, he was man of the match the other day. So that's upsetting people, I know. They're massive signing that they expect to be banging him in, doing well. So thoughts and prayers on Rangers fans that want to see him not succeed. Sorry, he's a little too good for that. Anyway, we got a couple score predictions. Not that many, though.
Yeah, not that many. We do have to go back to the Burnley match, as I said, because we didn't do a post-match. We had a couple correct score predictions. Mark, Southeast Michigan Toffee, who we just quoted, so double mention for Mark. Preachy Sports both predicted the 0-0, and then for the Forest match, just the one Western ME got the right 2-0 Everton prediction. So credit to you. We are continuing to keep a running tally on our channel, so join our Discord. The link's in the description, as I mentioned. Otherwise, Ryan, we look ahead to Brentford at the weekend playing on Sunday. They do have some AFCON impacts to their side. They're missing Dango Ouattara and Frank Onyeka. Not the biggest impact, but Ouattara was playing quite a bit for them. Obviously a big signing in the summer.
Yeah, and Brentford just keeps on keeping on, right? They're Brentford. They're a machine in many ways. But they also don't have a tremendous amount of depth as well. And he does hurt them. There's no question. Now, it'd be interesting to see what Brentford does in January, They're a very clever team, but they'll never panic. We know that. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, James, and it's just a matter of how many of our guys are back from illness or whatnot, so we can figure out what sort of lineup we're going to be able to conjure together. They're a good team. It should be an interesting match. I think we're pretty close in the table with each other, and we'll see how they do today against Spurs. That's the overachieving versus the underachieving battle today in Brentford. But, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. But, again, this is a stretch of matches, James, where we have opportunities to get results against teams like this.
Yeah, and I think all Everton fans will take a little bit of confidence away from the Forest performance, knowing that just how thin we were, still able to grind out results, and hopefully that can continue until we're able to get back to full strength. So I think that's going to do it for us on this episode. Thanks for tuning in again. Just one last reminder, like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. We appreciate it. Otherwise, we are going to, right after we finish recording this, jump into a bit of a January transfer window preview, so be sure to check that out. Both episodes will be coming out pretty much back to back, so if you're finishing this one up, you can jump right in to that episode. We hope you check it out and enjoy it. Appreciate you all. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
The Toffees.